Hi, I'm here to show you how I stamped all over one sheet and managed to make all these projects from my stamped sheet. So this is for a new teamie who is joining my team, so I decided to use Walk in the Woods and Comfort and Hope stamp set on some A4 very vanilla cardstock. So the colours I've chosen are autumnal and wintry, so cherry cobbler, pumpkin pie, old olive, soft suede and crumb cake. Starting with the crumb cake ink and with this lovely kind of parquet flooring from the Comfort and Hope stamp set. When you're starting with a blank piece of paper like this, it's quite nice just to lay down some background in a lighter colour so it doesn't become a scary blank sheet of paper. Once you've got the ink down, it does help to then build on it. So going in a sort of diagonal direction with my stamping and then just concentrating on the edges to make sure that the design goes right to the ends. Then bringing in the next biggest image, which is the lovely toadstools from the Walk in the Woods stamp set, and with my darkest colour, which is going to be cherry cobbler. Again, I tend to start in the top left corner, it's where my brain tends to go, and then sitting them roughly in between those patterns that I've already laid down. But again, just kind of roughly following a diagonal line to be able to place these bigger images down onto the paper. Then once you've got that laid down, you then kind of go from large to smaller images. So introducing this gorgeous little hedgehog that's in the stamp set and sitting him in between the toadstools. I do want to feature him quite a bit, so I make sure that I add a few of these images to make sure I fill up the space. Don't be scared to stamp right off the edge even if your image isn't fully on there. Next, coming in with the leaf, and I'm stamping this 3 times. It's called third generation stamping, where you can get 3 images from that one inked up stamp. So I'm just moving around and stamping it 3 times to do like a leaf display. And this is using the old olive. So again, just fitting in the leaves where the gaps are. And then I wanted to bring in this swirly design, and I'm coming in with pumpkin pie. Now this is quite a brave move, I think, because after I do it I kind of regret it, but a lot of the times with this kind of one sheet wonders which are stamped, you've just got to, we call it, trust the process and follow it through, because knowing that this isn't the end result. For me it was a matter of laying down some colour and some pattern, so I've stuck them next to the toadstool for a bit of regularity across my page. Then stepping back and having a look to see gaps and if there's any colours missing. So I'm bringing back the colours that I've already used. So this one was soft suede, and just using it to fill in gaps and stamping twice on each print. And then grounding my little hedgehog with these fun patterns, so you can really mix and match images with patterns. Don't feel that you've got to be too set in stone when it comes to the stamps. If anything helps to break up images and pattern, it's dots. For some reason dots do it. If you're used to watching my sister Artful stamping, she often refers to it as dottage, and it just really helps to just create movement to the one sheet wonder. So because my paper is quite plain, I'm coming in now with some Stampin' Blends and starting in that top right corner. If something goes wrong, it's only a small corner piece and it's great for testing rather than going right in the middle and regretting what you've done. So using the light cherry cobbler, and I'm just laying down some rough colour. Now my nib on my pen is going and it's quite fluffy on the ends, but thankfully it didn't matter for these images. Then coming back in with a darker shade, it really helped with that shading and adding more depth to my mushrooms or my toadstools. And just using the stamped images where they've highlighted on there already, I'm just going in and just going over it with the darker shade. And then the same with all the other images. This time Old Olive, just using the lines as my guide to lay down the dark colour first and then going back over it with the lighter of the blend in the same colour. So going in with the light Old Olive, and it just really makes the images pop by adding that colour. So I decided that the actual toadstool stalks could do with a bit of treatment, so I'm just adding in a light crumb cake blend just to give them some colour, because they looked as if they were merging a bit into the paper, and just again highlighting just one side with the darker crumb cake. And then once again, just test a corner piece or a image that isn't bang in the middle of your paper. So I just wanted to see how the soft suede colour would come out on my hedgehog, and using this felt tips, using the broad end throughout, and just using the nib to create this kind of spiky look to my hedgehog. And as you can see, I completed his eyes with the lighter colour as well. And there is the stamped sheet. You might think that somebody's thrown up on a piece of paper, but just bear with the process. So here's the aim of the game. We are hoping to cover this notebook with this centerpiece and then make a pen box. Here's my template, which opens up obviously with that right hand side piece with a belly band around it. And then these two pieces on the end, these are going to be used as one for a sign, a sign and a card, and we'll be adding those later in. So the easiest way to do this is to cut the end pieces first, so don't worry too much about that middle measurement. If once you've cut the end pieces away, then you're left with that middle. So hopefully it's on the screen long enough for you to screenshot or just to jot down those details, but I'm going to try and talk you through the different measurements. So starting on the left hand side and cutting the 2.5 inch piece, and then I'm going to flip over my paper to cut the other side, which would be the pen box, and cutting that in 3 3/4. So I tended to work in inches for this rather than centimetres, so although I have tried to write down the conversion, it was just a bit easier to try and stick to inches. So that's the main bit for the notebook. And then we're left with this other bit. This is the bit for the belly band, which I'm just chopping off and cutting it at 1 1/4 inches. So for the box, laying the card in a long ways and using my scoring tool on the trimmer at 3/4 inch, and then we're scoring it every 3/4 inch. So I've already scored at the 3/4 inch, and then moving it up to the 1.5 inches, then 2 1/4, and 3 inches. So this is a little tricky because they're not set, like I said, I did my measurements in inches, but I'm going to try and give you the centimetres. So it starts off easy at 2 centimetres, then it's about 3.8, 5.8 and 6.7. So like I said, it's a little bit tricky, I'm afraid, but I hope that helps. So I'm going to go ahead and just score all those lines and give them a crease with my bone folder. And then as you can see, this just rolls up and it creates this box, and then you're going to have a flap which tucks inside. So just trying to figure out what part of the picture I want tucked into the box. So then you're cutting the top flap. So this is the bit that tucks inside the box. So you're cutting it at an angle and then actually cutting at an angle from the other side as well, because this helps it to then tuck in. So with the top flap, you're cutting an angle on both ends and then the flap end. I hope that makes sense. Hope the visuals, you'll be able to see what's going on. Then cutting slits up both ends and repeating on the other side. Now that last end we're keeping flat and not cutting into it. These other ones I am cutting slits into. So the opposite end of the largest tuck-in flap we're keeping square. So these we're just going to nip a bit out of it just to help when it comes to the folding. I hope you can see that. I hope it makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to lay this flat and just trim off literally about 1/8 of an inch, so just a smidge from the flap of the box, because this just helps that flap to tuck in when it comes to folding it once you've got your pen inside. So I'm going to tuck these two out the way to help you see which bits need glue on. Now, because the tabs are so small, I am going to go in with glue dots. So holding those tabs down, and I'm going to mark which tabs need glue. The very bottom ones that I'm writing on now are going to be the last ones you glue, because they're going to be on the outside. So using my glue dots and attaching it to the flap that we folded down just now. And then the outer flap goes on the outside and stick together. Like so. That's why we didn't wedge that one, we kept it nice and straight. So repeat on the other side. Sorry, I'm off camera for this bit, I didn't realise. But hopefully you get the gist of what you need to stick where. So you should have some nice flat outsides with your seams headed towards the back. And then the flap stuck in, and then the larger flap at the front. Don't worry if it pops up, because we have got our belly band which will go around it later. So I'm bringing on the lovely Stampin' Up pen, which is going to go inside with a nice retractable action. Tucking in those smaller flaps and then the bigger flap. You can manipulate it a bit, but like I said, we've got the belly band to go around anyway. So here's the belly band, and I'm just folding it round just to crease it a bit and get it shaped up for when it comes to sticking. Now, I looked a bit lost on the box as it was, so I've gone ahead and I'm going to stick it on some cherry cobbler cardstock to give it a border, and then just trim this down to be able to fit around it. Touch of glue to hold that together, and then just give it a squeeze and let it dry. Okay, onto the notebook cover. I'm using some soft suede and my new Stampin' Up blending brush, and just rubbing around the edges, and this just really does something. It just really gives it a lovely effect and draws the eye to the middle bit of the picture. I'm just checking my notebook book is the right way up and not, I don't know, upside down or back to front. So let's just go stuck on with Tombow glue. Okay, now for the card and the sign. So that's cut at 2.5 inches by 3 3/4. And the same treatment again with some of the sponging or the blending around the edge, just to help close those edges. This Let's Create Together is available to demonstrators. It's a new stamp set that Stampin' Up have brought out, and it's got some brilliant sentiments, sorry, which is great for customer orders and for team members and encouragements for achievements, and I love it. And it was really nice to be able to incorporate this into my project today. So using my blender pens as an ombre effect on this wording, I love what you do, and I'm just fussy cutting out the word love, mounting it onto some cherry cobbler, and then I'm going to cut that out as well, so I've got a nice border around the wording. And then threading on some Mossy Meadow linen thread, which matches the Dragonfly stamp set. And then using more stamps from that same stamp set and just adding in a bit of the Old Olive for a bit of contrast. And then that's what I've done. I've gone ahead and mounted that and coloured it in, and that's just going to stick on the notebook. And then same again with the welcome. I'm going to fussy cut this out, and I've gone ahead and mounted those on cherry cobbler. So for the card, again, the picture got a little bit lost just straight onto the very vanilla, so I'm going to mount it up on a piece of cherry cobbler card. I'm not measuring anything, I'm just sticking it down, looking at the border and going with it. I wanted to create a bit of a background to incorporate the card with the papers, so I'm using that lovely parquet flooring again, and once again just blending around the edges to bring it all together. And a little twine bow to finish off my card. Tucked it in the top left corner, popped on some foam dimensionals at the back to help stick up my card and to give it dimension. So I couldn't resist adding just a little bit of bling or something just to have those finishing touches, and I'm using these lovely gold gilded gems. So here's the project. I've added a little gold gem so that the recipient knows whereabouts to open the box. Hopefully that will be clear with that little gem there, and added some of that twine around the belly band. Here's the cute little sign with the love what you do, and with those gold gems helping to finish that one off. Then the card, welcome to our team. I love the fact that it's all coordinates and it goes together. I love the fact that I really like it. I like the autumnal Christmassy theme. I've also added this ribbon, just simply tying it onto the spiral band to create a bookmark. I hope you've enjoyed today's project. It's been great to show you what I've been up to. And if you want to join my team, please do message me for more details. Subscribe to my channel for more projects just like this one, and comment below. Let me know what you think of today's project. Have a good day.